Hello and welcome to Echoes of Faith, a podcast put on by St. Veronica's Church. I'm here with Maria and Vince and of course Father Peter. Today the topic is living as a resurrection people. Father, it's an interesting topic. Normally when we think about resurrection, we think about somebody dying and then rising from the dead or experiencing resurrection. But resurrection is about how you live your life as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's where, first of all, there should be a correction in that because resurrection does not mean somebody dying and coming up again. That's what Jesus did with Lazarus. When Jesus brought up Lazarus, he came back with the same body to die again. But in Jesus' own case, it came with a different body in the sense that the body was transformed. That's why he can disappear and appear, and in the closed door he comes in. Without, now he's not being held by space, by anything. He is just free. There's a liberation that has happened, unlike Lazarus' own, he is not. He can't die again with the form he is and all that. So that's when we are talking about Jesus' resurrection. It's a quite different thing from what happened to Lazarus, because Lazarus say had to die again, but Jesus, in his own case, there's no death there. Yeah, resurrection actually is about a new life. Actually, the thing that describes resurrection very well is the symbols that were used in the night mass. In the Saturday Vigil Mass, there were symbols that were used. They describe what resurrection is actually. You see, there was that darkness, and then we brought in the Paschal light, Christ the light, that shattered, then the darkness goes. That's actually what resurrection, part of what resurrection is all about. It comes up, shatters the darkness. And then we had those there are places that we are baptism being done, which new life, new distance. That's why we say in baptism we died with Christ and resurrected with him. That is a sort of a new life. Those symbols actually describes what resurrection is all about and the life expected as a resurrection life, where there is a new life, a new way of doing, seeing things, and all that from different from the old way of life. Exactly what baptism is, a new life that begins.
Okay, so what is a resurrection life? I would think that living a life of about resurrection gives you a sense of courage because you know that there's a reward for you, that you know there's a reward for you in heaven. But what does it mean to live a life of resurrection?
You see, there are things we do, I will do at times or say that at times that contradicts at times some of the Christian message. So when we talk about heaven, heaven is not just a reward. It's not a reward. It's a reward is that you merit it. Because you have done all this, you merit this. I reward you for this you have done. It's not heaven is not all about. Heaven is a gift. It's a gift God gives us. But for you to merit that gift, that's why we talk about the life you live as a life of also that prepares you, disposes you to be able to live out the life that is there. And that's where we talk about that. But also, like what you are asking about the life of our lives. Yes, that's why I say that resurrection implies what we do at baptism, where there is a new life. We reject sin, reject Satan, reject all the works of evil, and then begin a new life that Christ has instituted. That is a life of sacrifice. He gave himself up for everyone. He didn't discriminate. That's not there. That's not part of his forgiveness. a new way, really, you forgive, and the acceptance of people, a love, a giving of self, a life of selflessness, not just selfishness. That's the challenge that really we get from resurrection. To begin a new change, that must be something in us to die, and then a new life spring up in us. Selfishness dying and selflessness coming up with all it says, which goes against hatred, against all sorts of things that against unforgiveness and jealousy, all those things.
Mhm.
There are things that dies and a new life spring up in us.
Okay.
And in that sense, we become the light. That's where now the light comes in. We become light now, shattering darknesses around us.
You have anything to add, Vince?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit just about my own personal interpretation of what the crucifixion is, and then looking ahead to the resurrection and how that might apply in our lives. So for myself, for example, it's about, first of all, about being really honest about who you are yourself, maybe your patterns of behaviors and the way that you are, and understanding where that comes from. So perhaps we've all developed, maybe it was for survival purposes or whatever it is, but we've developed our own characteristics and behavioral patterns and the way that we approach life as a means of survival. But we arrive at points in our lives where perhaps those ways that we live our lives no longer serve the purpose for the surviving up to the point that it helped us out. And maybe we arrive at a point in our life where now the way that we behave moving forward, because it no longer serves us, it actually causes us harm. And so when you allow yourself to become honest and open with yourself about these parts of ourselves that allow us to keep running into trouble, you kind of have to offer that version of yourself up on the cross to die. You have to let that part of yourself die in order to usher in something new, something different. So for myself, Good Friday was all about identifying things about, you know what, I'm at a point in my life where I need this to die. This part no longer serves me moving forward. And so I'm going to offer that up to Christ and say, you know what, old Vince is laid to rest. And Easter was all about celebrating that new that is to come. And that's where faith comes in as well, because you're stepping into unfamiliar and an unknown territory, right? But you put your faith in God and say, I'm going to trust that it's all going to work out. I'm going to allow myself to rise from the dead, so to speak. Christ set the example for us, right? Oftentimes, a lot of things that we hold ourselves back in life because of fear, right? And maybe it's fear of what other people might think, fear of judgment, fear of this or fear of that. But really, when you stop and think, are those things to be afraid of? What's like the worst thing that can happen to you? Maybe death is the worst thing that can happen to you, right? But Christ showed us that we need not even fear death, that even there is something greater for us afterwards, after death. And so if we approach life with that, you know what, Christ has given us the example that I need not even fear death, because there's something even greater that awaits on the other side of that. I think, yeah, for myself, that's how it kind of works in my own life.
Maria?
To add to that, at Easter, when we renew our baptismal vows, it's like you're given a chance to resurrect each time spiritually. You get to assess your life, like Vincent said. You get to assess your life and your misgivings. And come Easter, and you renew your baptismal vows. And through the teachings of Christ and what he showed us, it's like you can start over again. You can start anew, fresh. You're forgiven, and you're restating all the positive things about our faith. I find it interesting, how did the resurrection actually take place? How did that happen? Like, you see things on TV and how the media portrays a blast of light coming through his body and he's renewed. Was it Jesus's way of showing us that the spirit lives on? And once you've transformed into the spirit world, you can take on other faces and be part of the world again and be among people? Like transfiguration too, how does that fit in? Was that too
Father,
complicated?
no. I guess the bottom line is it's about turning over a new leaf, starting anew.
Sure, resurrection is always a call to a new life, like what I said, a dying to things, and then new life springing up, new life that brings you a new change, a change in that person's life, not just a new life, but change from, let's say, I'm somebody, let's take an example, who is always unforgiving. That dies, then I can easily forgive because I have that spirit to easily forgive. That's a new life. That's something. There was something that somebody talked about what happened to him on on Sunday night. Somebody was sharing with me what happened to him. He was sleeping and he had this dream, like there was something that flashed in his heart, in his mind, in his dream, what he is normally doing. And it looks like there is an energy that he had in the dream that helped him to overcome. That he said no more to that. And when he woke up, he said, oh, that's his resurrection, an experience of resurrection for him. He was sharing with me that he has experienced resurrection in that area, that this is something he has been doing and all that. But like from his dream, he felt he has had the energy, the courage that he's not going to do that again. He's beginning anew. That is dead in his life. That is really a new life that has sprung up, and a death there. Perhaps also something that God has been telling him, you have to do away with this, die of this, and then so that you can have a new life. So resurrection is something that is applicable. It happens only when we can die on a something. That's why it's always instructed that we take up something, look at into ourselves. Vince talked about trying to understand ourselves, know things that we are doing and that really are not good for the humanity. I mean, not just, it's not good for relationship with others and all the rest of them. Identify such things and then let them die. When we experience that this is died, I have overcome it. That's an experience of a resurrection. And this is and that's a new life beginning a new life. And then we can say, yes, we have an encounter, an experience of what resurrection is all about.
And you can do it throughout your life. It's not just once.
It's
You
a
can do
daily
it
thing.
all the time.
It's a daily,
Yeah.
it's a daily thing we have to be doing, because there are a lot. When we really are honest with ourselves, sitting down reflecting on ourselves, we see a lot of things that doesn't go well for the humanity, for my relationship with others, to enable me sacrifice myself. I mean, when we look at Christ as the goal, as an example, we see that he was really a self-giving, a sacrifice of himself. He gave up everything, even his own life gave up in order to save us, to give us life, to save us. So he emptied everything and we gained. And that's how our life should be. Our life should be to enrich others. Others gain from our life. And people can say, yes, he touched me, she touched me, I benefit.
Yeah.
Those are experiences of resurrection we are talking about.
When I think of resurrection, I think of light. And he has given us that gift of light so that we can shine it on everyone around us and give them love and encouragement.
Well, thank you. Is there something else you wanted to add, Father?
Well, the thing is that to encourage, I mean, resurrection, like we say, is a daily experience we go through every day. And any day I have been able to conquer and overcome something that holds me down, that makes me not to relate well with my neighbor. And that is a resurrection experience I have in my life. And that's that. Anytime I become a light for others to look at the community, and I have become, it's a resurrection experience, and that helps to build our society. The resurrection is meant for our society to be well. Really, if we all have that encounter and experience, we have a better world.
Well, thank you. Vince, the email address?
Yeah, if anyone would like to reach out to us with any comments or suggestions or questions or maybe some ideas for themes that you'd like us to cover, it's echoesoffaithpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Ciao, ciao.